Today we're going to be talking about three-dimensional shapes, or you might have heard of them as 3D shapes. The D stands for dimensions. There's length, there's width, and there's height to these shapes. So instead of two-dimensional shapes, which are flat, like those shape cards that you cut out earlier in the week, these are three dimensions. So we're going to start by describing a cube. And I have a picture of a cube here for you to see. And maybe you have some cubes lying around your house that you could collect or you could look at. The first thing that comes to my mind are building blocks for kids. We have a lot of cubes lying around our house. We have magnetic cubes, wooden cubes, foam cubes, all different kinds of cubes for Abby to build with. So if you have any around your house, it might be helpful for you to grab some now so you can look at one while we're talking about them. So take a minute and think to yourself, what do you notice about this cube? And you can always pause the video while you're thinking, and then you can hear my think aloud. So I noticed that this cube has 6 flat surfaces, which are called the faces. There's a flat surface here, which is 1. Here, which is a side, 2. 3, another side. 4, this flat surface or face back here. 5, the flat surface that is on the bottom. And 6, the flat surface that is on the top. So there are 6 faces on a cube. All the faces on the cube are the same size. Each face is a square. So a cube is special because it's made up of all faces that are squares. On this cube, there are 8 vertices, and a vertice on a 3D shape is where 3 of the edges meet. So if I run my cursor along an edge here, it meets at this point, and it meets this edge at that point, and this edge at that point. So that would be one of my vertices, and there are 8 on this cube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 4 vertices on the top, 4 vertices on the bottom. On this cube, there are 12 edges. So the edges are really the line segments that make up the shape. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the top, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the bottom, and 1, 2, 3, 4 more here, making 12 total edges on our cube. Now we're going to move on to learning about some other 3D shapes, and later we'll compare those shapes to the cube. Here we have a cylinder, a cone, and a sphere. And you maybe haven't heard some of those vocabulary words before, but you've definitely seen these 3D shapes in your everyday life. An example of a cylinder would be a paper towel roll. A cone would be an ice cream cone. And a sphere would be any kind of a ball or a basketball. So we're going to talk about some of their attributes, and then later, maybe you'll find some objects around your house and compare them to a cube. So cylinders and cones are different from a cube because they have curved surfaces. So on the cylinder here, there's a curved surface that goes around it. On the cone, there's a curved surface that goes around it. Cylinders and cones have flat surfaces called faces. So similar to a cube, they have flat surfaces called faces, but in a cylinder, those faces are circles. So there's a flat surface here and a flat surface here, so it has 2 faces that are circles. A cone only has 1 face, 1 flat surface, which is a circle. And cylinders and cones have curved edges. So when we looked at our cube had all straight edges, 12 of them. But when we look at a cylinder and a cone, the edges where the faces meet the curved surface are also curved. And that's okay. The point where the curved surface is across from the flat surface on the cone is called the apex. So that point where it meets is called an apex, not a vertice on a cone. A sphere is a little different because as I'm looking at it, I'm noticing a sphere doesn't have any flat surfaces. It's round all the way around. So a sphere has this curved surface similar to a cylinder or a cone, but it doesn't have any edges or faces. So maybe you want to look around your house and see if you have any of these objects that you can explore and play around with. Maybe run your finger along the curved surfaces or the edges. And we're going to move on to the next set of shapes. So here we have a rectangular prism, which you probably have shoe boxes or other boxes lying around your house in that shape. I know we have lots of cereal boxes and macaroni and cheese boxes right now, and those are rectangular prisms. We have the cube again, and I put a picture of some of Avi's toys. And then we have a pyramid. And you might think, a pyramid doesn't have anything in common with a rectangular prism and a cube. But there's a reason why it's on this page. So let's check them out. A rectangular prism and a cube have a lot in common. They both have 8 vertices, 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom. They both have 6 faces, 2 on the side, 4 all around. They both have 12 edges. And in this rectangular prism, some of the faces are rectangles. Actually, in this picture, it looks like all of the faces are rectangles. But sometimes in a rectangular prism, you might see 2 of the faces are squares. The special part about a cube is that it has all the same attributes as a rectangular prism, except that it has to have all the sides, all the faces, squares. So it's really a special kind of rectangular prism. Now the pyramid is made up of its faces are made up of 2 different shapes. There's a square, a rectangle on the bottom, and then there are triangle faces that make up the rest of the shape. It has straight edges, similar to a rectangular prism or a cube. It has vertices, similar to a rectangular prism or a cube, and it's made up of flat surfaces or faces. So maybe you could look around your house and see if you have any pyramids, or maybe you could look online at some pictures. We're going to move on to today's activity. Find one example of a 3-dimensional shape at home and compare it to a cube. Post a picture of your object and record a voice note on Seesaw describing how it is similar or different from a cube. So this is going to be your activity today. And if you have to go back and listen to the lesson to hear about the attributes again, that would be a great idea. So I found a can of soup in my cupboard, and I'm going to compare it to a cube. And this is just my example of the activity. So my can of soup is a cylinder. The cylinder has a curved surface, but the cube does not have any curved surfaces. The cylinder has 2 flat faces, so there's a flat face on the top and on the bottom. And the cube has 6 flat faces, so the cube has more flat faces than the cylinder. The cylinder's faces are circles, and the cube's faces are squares. A cylinder can be rolled when pushed, but the cube cannot. So these are some of the things that I noticed when I compared the cylinder to the cube. So take some time, find an object around your house, and then jump on Seesaw, take a picture of it, and tell us about it.